Part 101. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 1001. Her husband has always been a person who doesn't play by common sense. Teresa doesn't dare to speculate on what he thinks. Hizaway raised his hand. Okay, get out. Teresa, but sir, you are still injured. Skin trauma, you can't die. Teresa did not dare to disobey him, so she could only retreat. Hizaway sent a message to Susie, want to know how to save her. Susie was sitting at the ticket office of a dilapidated small amusement park. The sky was low and the dusk light shone into the small window. His phone vibrated. There were no customers at the moment and it was very quiet. He picked up the phone and frowned suddenly when he saw the message on it. Hizaway, he was no longer a researcher at all. He was more interested in being a businessman. Even his team couldn't figure out a way to treat Akiao, so how could Hizaway be able to break through such a world-class problem? But no matter how much he didn't believe it, it was about Akiao's body, so he had to put down his posture and reply, you have a way. Hizaway, do you believe me? You love to talk but don't talk. Hizaway, you go and treat Gu Xiao first. If you can cure Gu Xiao well, I will tell you how to save your niece. In terms of medical skills, Hizaway has always been inferior to Susie. What's more, Susie has always been obsessed with medical skills and research. However, he later entered the business world, and his medical skills are even worse than Susie. How do I know whether what you said is true or false? If I cure Gu Xiao and you go back on your promise, I will have nothing to do with you. I only give you a clue. Fu Nanli is not the only one who has the same blood type as Wen Qiao all over the world and can take blood from others. Susie frowned, what do you mean? Hizaway was always better than him in crooked ways. I said, I will only give you one clue. After you cure Gu Xiao, or at least wait until Gu Xiao's condition improves, I will tell you the next clue. Susie lowered his eyes, I'll think about it. Hizaway didn't force him over there, I'll give you a week to think about it. As night fell, Fu Nanli went to Wen Qiao's house. Wen Qiao had told him about synthetic blood before. He told Zhou Jin about this research project. Zhou Jin meant that it was very difficult. So he came to see Wen Qiao. I didn't want to speak so directly to her and increase her psychological burden, I just wanted to come and see her. When he entered the door, he saw Wen Qiao lifting a man's clothes. The man was wearing a white shirt and was lying on the sofa. Wen Qiao lifted up a corner of his shirt and stared at the man's abdomen intently. Even though he knew that number 3 was a robot, Fu Nanli still couldn't help but feel the blood rushing to his head. Wen Qiao inserted the last needle and breathed a sigh of relief. She felt that she would be able to give Fu Nanli's grandfather acupuncture in 2 days. She didn't know whether the old man would be willing to accept the treatment from her, a barefoot doctor who had become a monk on the way. Number 3 looked at her with a smile, you are sweating, wipe it off. Fu Nanli pressed his temples, stepped forward, took out a tissue, took Wen Qiao's hand, and wiped her sweat naturally. No 3's eyes were open and clean, but no matter how open they were, Fu Nanli felt stuck in his heart. Wen Qiao didn't look at his abdominal muscles as often as number 3. How can I bear it? Why are you here? Wen Qiao looked at him with shining eyes. Fu Nanli poured her another cup of cold drink and said, drink some water. I have something to tell you. Say it. Fu Nanli glanced at number 3. Wen Qiao, it's okay. It's okay to say it in front of him. Feeling like one of his own, Fu Nanli clenched his fist and endured it. Thank you for being close today, the clouds are like clothes, flowers are like faces, the cat looking up at the starry sky, Qi ya zhen zhen, bao ermia. Gee, at that moment I just suddenly wanted to, Hangong Zhang, modern world beautiful, think about it, fairy, I am your little auntie, I will reward you with a meteor shower, okay. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 1002. Fu Nanli whispered to Wen Qiao about the situation at Zhou Jin's side. Wen Qiao understood, it doesn't matter, just take your time. Fu Nanli's face suddenly became stagnant. He held Wen Qiao's hand and said, since my blood can relieve your symptoms, should I directly transfuse my blood to you? Wen Qiao immediately denied, it's useless, and it's useless to give me your blood. She answered too eagerly, and her eyes even flickered. Fu Nanli knew that this method was feasible. But seeing how flustered she was, probably, she could only save one. He reached out and pulled the person in, we don't need to do that unless it is a last resort. Zhou Jin is studying it. You said your uncle is also studying it. I will do everything I can to find a way to save you. Wen Qiao shook his hand, yes. Number 3 just looked at them. Wen Qiao stayed in Fu Nanli's arms for a while and calmed down, I have to see No 3's reaction. Fu Nanli. One day, he's going to dismantle this damn robot. Therefore, Mr. Fu could only sit on the sofa nearby seemingly calmly, watching his girlfriend's fingers fall on the robot's wrist, and she was checking the pulse. Even the slightest touch of someone else's skin can set him on fire. Wen Qiao closed his eyes slightly, feeling his pulse, and finally let go of his hand. The situation has improved a lot, the blood pressure has slowly dropped, and the cerebral infarction has also improved. Fu Nanli comforted himself. Although the robot looked about the same age as him, he had rheumatism, cerebral infarction, high blood pressure, and some other incurable diseases. Therefore, there is no need for him to be envious, let alone a patient. No 3. Master, there is no need to set up so many diseases for me. Half an hour later, Wen Qiao put away all the needles in No 3's abdomen and turned to look at Fu Nanli, how about you tell your grandpa and see if he wants me to show him. Fu Nanli, okay, I will talk to him. Wen Qiao sterilized the silver needles, put them into the needle bag, and lowered his eyes, will the old man look disgusted? Fu Nanli rubbed her head, then he will miss a famous doctor. Wen Qiao, what kind of famous doctor am I? Grandma's rheumatism has been greatly improved because of your treatment, which is obvious to all. So, Fu Nanli returned to the Fu family mansion and told the old man about it. Fu Huaiyang was stunned for a moment, and then hummed, that girl doesn't even have a medical license. She took the exam and got it. She is always working hard silently. Fu Huaiyang was suffocated, you didn't pay her to live, right? Is it so easy to get a medical license? Fu Nanli's face darkened, Grandpa, what do you mean? She has only been practicing acupuncture for a long time. Is it so easy to get a medical license? Grandpa, doesn't he know how high her IQ is? That girl has an eye for 10 lines and a photographic memory. It's just a test. She passed it without even preparing seriously. Fu Huaiyang chuckled, when it comes to praising that girl, you always spare no effort. Fu Nanli took a sip of coffee, seeing that you are so picky about her, I guess Grandpa doesn't want her to do acupuncture for you, so I'm talking too much. After saying that, he got up and went upstairs. The old man hesitated to speak, and he was duplicitous, but he could not get off the stage because of his dignity, so he could not stop his grandson. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 1003. Even Uncle Li was adding fuel to the fire. I heard from the housekeeper at Yuanyi's mansion that the old lady's health has been much better recently, and her rheumatism has been mostly cured. It's all thanks to that child Xiao Wen. It's amazing. I gave the old lady a lot of help before. The person who treated the disease, Zhang Qianshan, was considered a very famous Chinese medicine practitioner in our country, but he could not compare to a young girl in her early 20s. Fu Huaiyang looked at him coldly, and Uncle Li quickly smiled and said, "How about I go and tell the young master and ask Xiao Wen to come over and show you?" Uncle Li has taken care of the old man for decades, but he knows very well what kind of temper this old man is. The old man still said he didn't need it. Uncle Li still went up and spoke to Fu Nanli and asked him to bring the person over. Of course Fu Nanli would bring Wen Qiao here. The old man made him uncomfortable in many ways. After all, he was still his biological grandfather. His father died young and he didn't have many close relatives. He wouldn't care so much if he could make the old man healthier. So the next day, Fu Nanli brought Wen Qiao over. "Well, Qiu Ya is here too." When she saw Wen Qiao coming, Qiu Ya was sitting dignifiedly and making tea. Doesn't she want to learn some other craft? She also wanted to learn massage and acupuncture, but she had already hired the best master. The master told her that if she wanted to learn it, it would take less than 10 or 8 years. It would be impossible and she would have to take exams. The most important thing is that she doesn't have that kind of talent. She is not Wen Qiao. She studied art and switched to Chinese medicine without any effort. So, she could only make tea. Fu Huaiyang glanced at Wen Qiao and said mercilessly, "Did you really cure Nan Li's grandma's rheumatism?" Wen Qiao said calmly, "It's not completely healed yet, but in another half a year, I can minimize the old lady's pain." "Qiu Ya, can't it be completely cured?" "Cannot." Qiu Ya's smile was a little sarcastic, and she thought to herself, "I thought you were so capable, but it's not impossible to cure it." Fu Huaiyang said, "You are a monk halfway and you come to treat me. How brave do you have?" Wen Qiao paused while holding the needle bag, then turned to look at Fu Nanli with a somewhat aggrieved expression. He whispered, "Brother, that's not what you said when you asked me to come. You said that your grandfather has changed his attitude towards me a lot. Why is it still the same attitude now?" Fu Nanli hugged her waist and said softly, "Don't wrong yourself, just say whatever you want." Wen Qiao raised his eyebrows and said, "If you don't believe in my acupuncture skills, then I'll leave right now." Fu Huaiyang choked and turned livid with anger. "What is your attitude?" After speaking, he looked at Fu Nanli. Fu Nanli didn't say a word. Wen Qiao said calmly, "With this attitude, old man, if you are willing to let me try, don't say sour words. I don't pay for the consultation, and I won't get any benefit from you. I will treat it for you. I have no interest in being abused if I have to be squeezed by you." Fu Huaiyang stretched out his hand to press his forehead. Qiu Ya said quickly, "Grandpa Fu, are you okay?" Then he looked at Wen Qiao, "How could you talk to Grandpa Fu like that? Moreover, Grandpa Fu also has high blood pressure and cerebral infarction. You can make her angry." "I'm just telling the truth." Qiu Ya is worried on her face, but she is cold in her heart. "You idiot, you can't say anything nice. Even if you really cure Grandpa Fu's disease, don't expect Grandpa Fu to like you." Suddenly, her fear of Wen Qiao was reduced by half. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me. The boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 1004. Grandpa Fu is an extremely arrogant person. He only likes others to follow him and flatter him. People like Wen Qiao, even if they have great achievements, will not be favored by Grandpa Fu. Wen Qiao said again, "So, old man, do you still want me to treat you?" Uncle Li comforted the old man, "She's already here, and it's really effective. Old man, just let her try it." Fu Huaiyang, "Let that girl apologize to me." Wen Qiao, "I'm not wrong, why should I apologize?" Fu Huaiyang's headache got worse. Fu Nanli whispered to Wen Qiao, "Pay attention to your sense of propriety. Wen Qiao squeezed his hand. Don't worry, I'm measured. Fu Huaiyang is only over 70, so he naturally wants to live a good life. After such a long time, he also knows what kind of temper this damn girl is. Considering that this girl was the one who beat him in the equestrian competition, he didn't care so much about her. Most importantly, he now had a severe headache. In addition, Fu Nanli gave him a step down. Qiao, let grandpa have a look quickly. I think he seems to be very uncomfortable. He didn't hold it that way anymore. Wen Qiao said in a deep voice, Uncle Li, help the old man go upstairs. Qiuya wanted to follow, but Fu Nanli glanced at her. Qin Bei instantly understood what his young master meant, and reached out to stop Qiuya. I'm sorry, Miss Qiu, but I don't want outsiders to be present when Miss Wen is treating a disease. Qiuya was a little anxious. I don't trust Grandpa Fu. Qin Bei almost laughed. Are you worried? Who are you? Our young master and Miss Wen are both close relatives of the old man. They are here, so you don't have to worry. Qiuya glanced at Qin Bei. This bodyguard really knew how to please Wen Qiao. What kind of close relative was Wen Qiao? But the tall man stopped her, so she had no chance to follow him. What bothered her the most was that the old man didn't ask her to follow him. She could only stay on the first floor. Arriving at the old man's room on the second floor, Wen Qiao skillfully washed and disinfected his hands. The needle pack was spread out, and a large string of silver needles shone coldly under the light. Wen Qiao said calmly, today we will first perform acupuncture for high blood pressure, and the Beihui point will be inserted. Fu Huaiyang even felt a chill on the back of his neck. Beihui point is on the head. It was his first time to perform acupuncture so boldly, and he was really worried. Wen Qiao had already finished the disinfection work. Looking at the old man's resistance, he said, if you don't trust me, then we don't have to start. He is rational and cold, but he really has the demeanor of a famous doctor. On the contrary, her indifferent attitude made the old man feel more at ease. If this girl was too flattering, he wouldn't dare let her take action. Let's start. Fu Nanli patted Wen Qiao's shoulder gently, no need to stress. Wen Qiao sat on a chair nearby, reached out and pressed the old man's head first, pressing it in a full circle, and then started to inject the needle. This feels a little different from giving number 3 acupuncture. This is a real person, and if a wrong injection causes any side effects, the old man will definitely be picky and magnify her mistakes. At this time, she is a doctor, and she will temporarily forget those entanglements. Her only appeal is to cure the person lying here, or at least improve it. Why does it hurt so much? The old man suddenly said. Wen Qiao tooted softly, don't talk. Fu Huaiyang. He was actually ordered to shut up by a little girl. Fu Nanli's lips curled up slightly. The little girl was able to cure the old man, which was a good sign. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 1005. The acupuncture took a long time, because the Beihui point was on the head, so it should not be taken lightly. The old man never liked the air conditioner to be set too low, and sweat would fall from Wen Qiao's forehead from time to time. Fu Nanli stood aside with a handkerchief, just like a nurse in the operating room who wiped sweat from the attending doctor, helping her wipe the sweat from her forehead from time to time. Finally, the last silver needle was inserted in, and Wen Qiao breathed a sigh of relief. All the best. Qiuya downstairs was in agony. She even secretly hoped that something would happen to the old man, and that Wen Qiao would be in bad luck. She listened carefully to every move upstairs, and whenever there was any sound, she excitedly said to the servant, let me go up and take a look. Qin Bei said coldly, Miss Wen is up there. You are not a doctor, so there is no point in going up there. After half an hour of this, Qiuya heard a sudden voice from above, oh, What is going on? A panicked voice came. Chuya took advantage of Qin Bei's lack of attention, pushed him away, and rushed upstairs. He deserves it. Is Wen Qiao overturned? She couldn't hold back her joy and rushed directly to Mr. Fu's room. She saw Uncle Li shaking with fear, saw Fu Nanli's solemn expression, and saw the panic flashing in the old man's eyes. She covered her expression and said with concern, "Grandpa Fu, are you okay?" Wen Qiao held down the old man's hand. "Don't move." When Chuya saw the blood pouring from the old man's forehead, she was so frightened that she screamed, What is going on?" After saying that, he wanted to step forward and pull Wen Qiao's arm, but Fu Nanli stopped him. Chuya gritted her teeth and said, "Wen Qiao, if your medical skills are not up to this level, why don't you try to force me? Are you using Grandpa Fu as your test subject? Look at the good things you have done." Wen Qiao said coldly, "Qin Bei, take her out." Chuya pushed Qin Bei away, who was chasing after her. "Fu Nanli, are you crazy? Are you just watching Wen Qiao do this to your grandfather? Grandpa Fu, please tell her to stop, something will happen if this continues." Wen Qiao said coldly, "Qin Bei, we can't let her go out and just shut up." Chuya was dragged directly to the door by Qin Bei, and her mouth was covered. Mr. Fu wanted to struggle to sit up, but Wen Qiao held his shoulders. "Don't move." Mr. Fu was actually swayed by her aura. Wen Qiao looked at the watch on his wrist. When the second hand pointed to 12, his slender fingers immediately reached to the Beihui point, pulled out the silver needles, and then pulled them out one by one. Finally, he raised his hand. Fu Nanli seemed to understand and handed over a piece. Clean handkerchief. Wen Qiao slowly wiped away the blood on the old man's temples. Only then did Fu Huayong sit up, with a cold expression on his face and a bit frustrated. "Is there something wrong?" Wen Qiao put the silver needle into the needle bag and glanced at him. "If something goes wrong, can you still speak?" Fu Huayong turned to Fu Nanli. "Are you just going to watch your grandfather bleed?" "Fu Nanli, I believe she is measured." "What's the point?" Wen Qiao wiped his hands with a disinfectant tissue. "So Grandpa Fu, how do you feel now?" Fu Huayong was worried just now, but now he realized that his head didn't hurt so much anymore. "My head felt heavy downstairs just now, but now my whole body feels relaxed, clear, and my whole body feels comfortable. This feeling has been long gone." Fu Nanli was a little worried. "Grandpa, what do you think?" You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 1006. The most nervous one could be said to be Chuya, who was holding onto the door frame and refusing to leave. Wen Qiao was so serious now that Fu Nanli couldn't even protect her. But what Mr. Fu said shocked her. "It does seem like the headache is gone." Fu Nanli breathed a sigh of relief, put his arm around Wen Qiao's shoulders, and kissed the top of her hair. "Thank you for your hard work." Chuya was stunned and came forward. "Grandpa Fu, do you really have a headache?" Fu Huayong pressed his temples and gently turned his neck. "Indeed, my head is no longer heavy. It feels very relaxed." Chuya looked at Wen Qiao. "How can there be such a fast-acting medical skill? Will there be any dangerous sequelae if you do this?" Wen Qiao gave her an indifferent look. "Why don't you come?" Chuya was speechless. "What is your attitude? If I say that the refrigerator cannot cool, do I have to know how to cool it myself first? You are a doctor now, can't I even question it?" Fu Nanli's eyes flashed with evil thoughts. What position does Miss Chu use to question? I don't even question it, so what qualifications do you have to question it? Chuya looked at Mr. Fu with an aggrieved look. Mr. Fu's symptoms were relieved. He, the client, had the most intuitive feeling, so he said, "Okay, Xiao, don't question Wen Qiao anymore. She does have certain attainments in acupuncture." Chuya's heart suddenly sank to the bottom. I could only force a smile and say, "I'm sorry, Grandpa Fu, I'm too worried. I'm just afraid that something will happen to Wen Qiao. After all, this is related to your body." Wen Qiao had already put away the needle bag, glanced at Chuya, and really let her say everything. Fu Nanli took Wen Qiao's hand and said, "Take you to wash your hands." After saying that, he directly put his arm around Wen Qiao's waist and went to the bathroom. From time to time there are sounds. I can do it myself. Don't move and squeeze some hand sanitizer. Chuya's face turned pale. It was obviously Fu Nanli who was helping her wash her hands. Fu Nanli actually did it personally to such an extent. I have to say that Wen Qiao is really good at controlling men. In the bathroom, Fu Nanli's knuckled fingers gently rubbed the hand soap and lathered up. He hugged her from behind, and then carefully and gently scrubbed each finger of hers. The sun was shining brightly outside, and the side of the person's face in the mirror was bathed in the sunlight that was diluted by the curtains. There was a thin layer of sweat on the tip of his straight nose. There seems to be a faint smell of milk on my body, which goes straight to my nose. Done yet? Wen Qiao gently pushed his abdomen with his elbow. You have to wash your hands carefully. Didn't it mention it in the textbook when you took the exam for your medical license? Wen Qiao looked at the serious-looking man in the mirror and stepped on his foot gently. I didn't mention it. Don't move. Her hands were white and smooth, and her fingers were very beautiful, as white as onion roots, and when held in her hands, they were soft and boneless. Obviously she never takes care of her hands and rarely puts on any hand cream, but it feels very soft and addictive. Even if two people wash their hands, they can make people outside feel impatient to wait. Fu Huaiyang coughed slightly, but it was impossible for anyone to go and see if the two people had washed themselves. 4 or 5 people in a room were waiting there awkwardly for the two of them. Fu Nanli never cared about other people's feelings, including his grandfather's feelings, but he didn't take it to heart. After a long while, he slowly dragged Wen Qiao's hand out of the bathroom. Wen Qiao told Mr. Fu calmly and rationally, I will come up with a new recipe and ask the chef in your mansion to cook according to the recipe I gave you. I will come over and give you acupuncture in another week. What do you think? Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 1007. How disgusted she was just now she is so slapped in the face. Fu Huaiyang suppressed the secret feeling in his heart and said calmly, I know. This girl is finally on her own terms now, and she treats the Yuanese mansion man and him equally. I don't know why, but he actually cares about such a trivial matter. Wen Qiao went downstairs, and Uncle Li followed him and said eagerly, Xiao Wen, please stay with the young master for dinner tonight, as the old man wishes. Although the old man didn't say anything, Uncle Li could feel that the hostility between the two was gradually fading. Ever since Win's horse won the Jockey Club title, the stalemate was slowly melting away. Xiao Wen really makes people believe in her based on her strength. The old man has a tough talk, but he believes that sooner or later, the old man will surrender. Wen Qiao didn't ask if it was the old man's intention, so he would just stay and eat. She was pulled to his room by Fu Nanli. Just as Master Fu wanted to do something, Wen Qiao pushed him on the chest, I have to call your grandma. What are you calling her for? Wen Qiao nestled in his arms, dialed the phone and told her about her treatment for the old man. Because Mr. Fu and Grandma treat her very differently, she always takes into account Grandma's mood, and finally added a sentence, I hope you don't mind. Wu Yui over there smiled and said in a warm voice, silly boy, even if I don't like Nan Li's grandfather very much, if you can put aside your prejudices and treat him, not only will I not be angry, I will also think that you are a very reasonable person. A very kind and good boy. You don't have to tell me at all, these are your freedoms, I will not impose my preferences on you and make you constrained. Wen Qiao felt warm in his heart and felt that he was very lucky. All the people he met along the way were good people, gentle and strong. The two chatted for a while, and Master Fu finally couldn't bear it anymore. He leaned over the phone and said, "Have you finished talking, old lady?" When the old lady heard her grandson's voice, she said angrily, okay, I won't bother you. Young people are tired. I'm hanging up." Fu Nanli hugged her on the sofa by the window and played with her fingers. Wen Qiao turned to look at him. "Were you nervous when your grandpa was bleeding just now?" Fu Nanli had been standing beside her. Although she did not turn around to look, she could tell that his breath had become heavier. "A little." Wen Qiao narrowed his eyes. "You still don't believe me? You girl, don't you believe that I will bring you here? But the moment I saw the bleeding, I was really worried that something would go wrong." Wen Qiao shook his hand. "That is to drain some of his congestion, which is beneficial." Fu Nanli kissed the corner of her mouth. "Yes, I know." Chuya could feel that Mr. Fu's attitude towards Wen Qiao had changed significantly. She was worried, but she didn't dare to say anything. She could only stay and take care of the old man without complaint. She also shamelessly stayed for dinner. The old man even exchanged a few words with Wen Qiao at the dinner table, but Wen Qiao still dragged him as hard as he could, without caring about the old man's face at all. Fu Nanli helped her unconditionally. She glanced at Wen Qiao enviously. She was always careful when speaking, always afraid that the words she said accidentally would hit the old man's sensitive nerves. After the meal, Wen Qiao took Fu Nanli, said goodbye to the old man, and left the Fu family mansion. "I don't want to see that Miss Chu trying her best to please the old man." When she got home, she saw her uncle standing under the tree in the yard smoking. It seemed that she had never seen her uncle smoking before, and it seemed that she had encountered some problem. Wen Qiao stepped forward and said softly, "Uncle, what's wrong with you?" Susie put out the cigarette in his hand. "I found he's away yesterday." "What did you say?" Susie breathed out, "He wants to make an exchange with me." "What exchange?" Susie lowered his eyes. "He said he had clues on how to save your life. He said that you don't necessarily need to rely on my research on synthetic blood and Fu Nanli alone. It's the last day, please vote. I heard that the little cutie who votes monthly for Shushu will have good luck. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me." Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 1008. What are his terms? Let me save Gu Xiao. Wen Qiao looked solemn. Does my uncle believe him? Susie shook his head gently. I don't want to believe it, but it seems, I have no other choice. Wen Qiao shook his hand. If you don't want to exchange with him, then forget it. I also think his way is cunning and sinister. Susie seemed a little upset. I'll think about it again. After that, he entered his room. Wen Qiao sat under the tree for a while. If her uncle could save Gu Xiao, she would actually be happy to see it happen. She didn't hate Gu Xiao, and Gu Xiao was Fu Nanli's younger brother. Fu Nanli didn't say it, but in his heart I still care about that younger brother. But she didn't want to put pressure on her uncle and force him to do things she didn't like. Let him decide for himself. Late at night, Susie sent a message to Hizawei, should I go to country M or should you bring Gu Xiao over? A message came back quickly, I will take him back to China. In just 2 days, Susie received another message, at 6 o'clock tonight, I will send a car to pick you up. Susie replied, Akiao wants to be with me. There was no response for a long time. Susie, I at least have to bring someone to protect me. Hizue looked at the message on the screen and said softly, what's the use of bringing Wenqiao? He really wanted to make Susie disappear, and bringing Wenqiao here would only double the danger. He texted back, okay. In the evening, a Rolls-Royce parked at the entrance of the alley. Susie and Wenqiao got in the car together. As soon as they got in the car, black cloth strips were tied around their eyes. Wenqiao raised his eyebrows subtly, what is this for? Protect our husband's privacy, a black man explained in pure Mandarin. Wenqiao, then what about our safety? Who will guarantee it? Miss Wen, you can rest assured. This is in Heiken. Sir, you won't mess around. This is also your consideration when picking up the young master, so that you can rest assured. Don't worry. I'm not too worried. Your Mr. He is not a fuel-efficient lamp. The car started slowly. Fortunately, Wenqiao was not unprepared. Since her uncle had chosen this road, she didn't have to worry too much. In the mansion at Mid-Level's villa, Teresa could see the two people with their eyes tied with cloth on the big TV screen, and whispered, Sir, please take advantage of this opportunity. Hizue glanced at her, what should I do with this opportunity? Teresa, don't you dislike Mr. Su and Miss Wen? Hizue's eyes were cold, you mean to take this opportunity to kill the two of them? Teresa smiled. If I kill them both here, can I still return to country M? Do you think the Fu family will do their best to catch me and bring me to justice? Teresa, are you still afraid of the Fu family? Hizue narrowed his eyes slightly and looked at her, it's not that I'm afraid, I just find it troublesome. Teresa breathed a sigh of relief, as long as the gentleman doesn't do anything dirty. After all, the young master cares about Miss Wen. Half an hour later, the surveillance video showed that the car had stopped at the gate at the foot of the mountain. 10 minutes later, Teresa said, Sir, they have arrived. I will take them to the young master. I come. Teresa's brows trembled and she followed Hizue to the gate. The black cloth on Wenqiao's eyes was removed. Fortunately, dusk fell and there was no dazzling sunlight. She managed to adapt and saw Hizue coming. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 1009. Susie was a little displeased, is this how you treat guests? Are you asking me to be a doctor, or are you kidnapping me? Hizue said indifferently, your niece's boyfriend is so capable in the sea city, shouldn't I be careful? Who should I talk to if he messes with me? Wenqiao said nothing. Susie said coldly, where is Gu Xiao? I'll take you there. After twists and turns, this mansion was bigger than Wenqiao imagined. Finally, he stopped outside a room on the third floor and pushed the door open. The room was very large, decorated in Nordic style, and Gu Xiao was lying quietly on the big bed. There were various instruments placed beside the bed, and an oxygen mask was worn on his face. It's been several months since we last saw each other. She still remembered the scene where Gu Xiao explained to Fu Nanli with tears in his eyes that he did not want to kill him, and she couldn't help but feel touched in her heart. The face on the bed was pale and lifeless, and there wasn't much water vapor in the oxygen mask, indicating that his breathing was very weak. Hizue's voice was a little cold, the previous knife hurt his heart. While speaking, he glanced at Wenqiao. Wenqiao was not afraid and looked back directly. It was clear that Fu Nanli ignored his past suspicions and did not take into account his fault. The premise for Gu Xiao's injury was that he took a knife and wanted to kill Fu Nanli, and Fu Nanli's bodyguards were just to protect their young master. It makes no sense that because he was injured, all blame would be reversed. Hizue added, we have consulted famous doctors, and they say that his will to live is not strong, and he has not been able to find a doctor who can guarantee that the heart repair surgery will be foolproof. Susie said calmly, I can't guarantee that it will be foolproof. If he dies on the operating table, I will not bear any responsibility. No doctor dares to say that he can definitely save the patient. Hizue's eyes flashed with evil thoughts, aren't you very powerful? Aren't you world famous? Can't you even do this? I can only try my best, but there is no guarantee that I can save him. Hizue, you. Susie, what am I? What have you learned in these years of studying medicine? He was actually attacked. Wen Qiao felt a little happy. Hizue retreated and asked for the next best thing, so how sure are you? Susie raised his hand, show me all the information on his case. Teresa had already prepared it. She took a thick leather document bag and handed it to Susie, here are all the information. Mr. Su, please take a look. Susie took the document bag and walked to the sofa nearby. Wen Qiao followed him and acted as his assistant, helping him take out the documents and spread them out one by one. Susie frowned. Hizue said coldly, what's wrong? When was this video taken? The CT scan was done a week ago. Susie, his will to survive is indeed not very strong, and the blood in his heart is shrinking and drying up bit by bit. How come Hizue didn't know, so he made an exchange with Susie. If there is really one person left in this world who can save Gu Xiao, this person can only be Susie. So, can he be saved? Susie, I'll do my best. If you can't save him, then there are clues about how to save your niece. Susie put down the information in his hand and said indifferently, I only promise you to operate on Gu Xiao, but I don't guarantee that he can be saved. Before the operation, you give me one more clue about Akiao, otherwise I won't do it. Hizue's eyes were sinister, Susie, I advise you not to push yourself too far. You haven't had surgery yet, so why should I provide another clue? Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 1010. Then there's no way we can reach an agreement on this deal, Aiko, let's go. Wen Qiao stood up immediately. Hizue, do you think you can leave after you come in? Susie, see if I can leave. He really had no way to guarantee that he could save Gu Xiao. If the operation failed, Hizue would definitely hide his clues. Maybe he and Fu Nanli could find out that clue on their own. However, that would definitely take time. It would be great if the answer could be obtained directly from Hizue's mouth. Hizue looked at Susie's decisive back, feeling chilled all over his body. Teresa became a little anxious and whispered, Sir, if you don't speak, Mr. Su will really leave. You should know Mr. Su's temperament. Stop. When Susie and Wen Qiao walked to the door of the room, the person behind them finally called out to them. The two turned back. Hizue looked like he wanted to eat people, and said coldly, besides Fu Nanli, there are 7 people in the world with the same blood type as Wen Qiao, scattered all over the world. Susie frowned, I checked blood banks all over the world, and only Fu Nanli has the same blood type as a Qiao. Hizue said coldly, those people are not registered in the blood bank. Your words are unfounded. How can I believe you? Where are they scattered? Hizue's face darkened, I only exchanged one clue. You know everything. If you don't save Gu Xiao, I can't do anything to you. Well, after you save Gu Xiao, the rest of the answers will be I'll tell you again. Susie lowered his eyes and thought for a moment. This was all he could do now, and further questioning would lead to no results. It is enough to know such clues. What Hizue could find out, given time, he and Fu Nanli should also be able to find out. Finally, he and Wen Qiao returned to Gu Xiao's bedside. The electrocardiograph made a mechanical beep sound. There was no human emotion in the whole room, like a clean and cold laboratory. Wen Qiao knew why Gu Xiao had no desire to live. He felt that no one in the world loved him. And because of his mother's deception, he did something to hurt his brother. He probably felt that he had no face to see anyone. As for the truth, he thought his brother who never cared about him actually cared about him very much. His grandmother almost cried her eyes out after not hearing from him for such a long time. And his unrelated brother Hezawei also traveled to various places for him, trying his best to save him. Gu Xiao, if you are lucky enough to wake up, you really can't be like before, only seeing what you have lost and not what you have gained. Su Ce raised his hand, except Akiao, everyone else should go out. Hezawei, I have also studied medicine for decades. I can be your assistant. Su Ce didn't even look at him, no need, Akiao can just be my assistant. You. Teresa said cautiously, Sir, let's go out. If Mr. Su regrets it again, the young master will never be saved in this life. Hezawei weighed two things in his mind and exited the room. There were cameras in this room. If Su Ce dared to mess around, he would make it impossible for him to come back. Silence returned to the room. There are all kinds of instruments inside, and there is even a sterile surgery book next to it. As long as he studies the plan, he can immediately push the person in and start the operation.